Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today is Lynne Eldridge, Executive Director of Early Learning Coalition of Northwest Florida. Yes. I'm going to refer to that as Early Learning Coalition going forward.
Perfect.
However, and let's do a little bit of the nuts and bolts. We say Early Learning Coalition of Northwest Florida because you are simply one of many coalitions. First of all, let's back up. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I love being with you.
It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Busy times.
Oh, and I understand that. Yeah. You, as all other state-funded organizations, always fighting for what little bit of funding that you do get. Let's start at the beginning, though. We've done this before. I don't do it every time, but let's, in broad strokes, in a nutshell, talk about what is Early Learning Coalition.
Perfect. The Early Learning Coalition of Northwest Florida, we have of Northwest Florida, because there's actually 31 of us across the entire state of Florida. Each of those coalitions have a designated number or group of counties that they administer state and local funding to ensure that there are school readiness. Some people would know it as subsidized child care services available, as well as voluntary pre-kindergarten services. And we are Northwest Florida because we have 7 counties that we're responsible for, and then right across the bridge, if you leave Calhoun County, across the bridge to Liberty, and those 7 counties, they belong to the coalition, the Early Learning Coalition of the Big Bend. So we're Northwest Florida because we have Bay, Calhoun, Gulf, Franklin, Washington, Holmes, and Jackson. So we serve all of those families, try to serve those families in those local communities. And it is about family, Paul. My heart is always going to be about children. I realized a few years into this, and this is my 37th year working with families and young children, I realized that if you really want to make a difference in the life of a child, they have to know you love and care about their family. And so the family is the first teacher. We want our children to come to school ready to learn, and that's primarily, Paul, what we're responsible for are those early years, that birth to 5, before they go to kindergarten. And that early learning time, we now know that that's the time when the brain is waking up and exploding. And so to just think that we can keep children safe during that time and wait until they hit kindergarten to learn, it just no longer is supported by research. And certainly anyone who's been with young children know that you can teach them and let them experience the world, or they will experience it without you, but they will experience it. So in a nutshell, we are here to help families who cannot afford childcare, the cost of childcare, on the money they are earning when they work. And that's the thing for school readiness, Paul. You have to be working or going to school so that you can get a better job. And again, families feel successful, they feel empowered, and they feel in charge of their own life when they're able to buy their groceries or pay their rent. And so their children then will go into an early learning program, a child care center, and we work with those child care centers to offer appropriate curriculum. Yes, even babies need books read to them. So we do this twofold. The families are eligible. We help them we support by paying the provider a part of the cost in the name of that family so that that family will keep working. I think it's real simple this way. If you were in Chipley and you had an infant, that's going to cost you $125 a week. And then you add a preschooler to that, now you add $110, so $235 a week for childcare. And now add that 7-year-old school ager, because I know maybe when I grew up, 7-year-olds could stay home by themselves, but today that may not be the best option. So now you add $75, let's just say $50. So easily, Paul, we're looking at $300 a week to keep working. Now think about the jobs in Chipley, around Chipley, driving to Tallahassee or Panama City. $300 a week in childcare. Most people The dollars just don't match. So what we are able to do is say you are eligible, you are working, but you're earning 150% or less of the federal poverty level. So that means a family of 4, about $32,000 a year they would be able to make to still be eligible. And so then we say, all right, for 6 months, we're going to pay, the state taxpayers pay this portion of the child care bill, and it's all done on a sliding fee scale. So the deal is in school readiness, everybody pays something. Parents paid their portion. We, taxpayers, or the coalition pays that piece. It goes directly to the provider. So now you have the small business able to function in that community and take care of its own. The parent can go to work. The child is in a learning environment where they're nurtured and kept safe. And hopefully at the end of the day, we've kept families together. We've kept them working. We've reduced the stress of parenting in this century, and have made it a good place for children to go to sleep at night and wake up the next morning.
Well, we're out of time. No, I'm just kidding. Good thing I told Lynne to keep it short and sweet. But you know, when Lynne is on the show, grab a rope and hang on. Your passion shows 37 years already.
37 years,
you started when you were about 8.
Actually, I started when I was 16.
My goodness.
Yes. A young 16.
I am very glad that you gave the nuts and bolts behind the scene of how that works with the child care provider, family on one side, state on the other, the funding piece. Because many times we as families take for granted the fact that we have child care at some reduced cost available to us.
Yes.
Many times we as families can't understand why one family may qualify for help and we don't. And you mentioned that piece about how much you make and what that threshold is. I really like the fact that you started explaining about how a child care provider can voluntarily become a part of the program. So in some cases, families may be using a child care provider that don't. Therefore, their curriculum may not have the oversight. And this is the cool part. Not only are you helping to subsidize the child care services, but you're ensuring that there is a curriculum in place that ensures that you have that. What's what the L in early learning.
Early learning, exactly right.
So, so I'm glad that you did that, and you said it a little differently as you do every time you're here. But I think that I got some of the pieces this time that sometimes I've always understood, but haven't been able to express. So it's given me ammunition. We have challenging fiscal times.
Yes, we do.
We also, and I just want to touch briefly on this as well. There are opportunities, as there are in all things in life, for people to sometimes get a little complacent, sometimes even a little bit lazy, or on the other side of the spectrum, trying to take advantage of something which they shouldn't. And in your case, you actually have some families that they're finding out they actually owe money back to the state because of either misrepresentation or simply not paying attention.
Right. Simply not paying attention. Yeah, that's true.
Very, very briefly, talk about how that works, because I think that just as it's important for us to be able to highlight what you offer, I think we would be disingenuous if we didn't point out some of the potential pitfalls as well.
Well, as you would, of course, guess, there are always opportunities to not exactly conform. And if you knowingly, as a parent, if you knowingly defraud this system, eventually we're going to get you.
It's not a question of if, but when.
Yes, these funds, and to me, Paul, I take it very seriously, because for every person who really isn't going to work and has no intention to work, and they place their child in, and 2 weeks later they say, I don't have to work, I got my child. That is not the norm. I need everybody to know, Paul, that we require 6 weeks of consistent pay stubs to even get you in the door. It's at least we know you worked for 6 weeks and what you made, and then we take those 6 weeks and we do an annual look at, okay, this is what you're going to be making if nothing happens. And that's what we go by, the high end, to even see if they're eligible. We only certify at this time for 6 months. So in 6 months, we're coming back in, we're looking again. And that's where we find issues. So Mama worked, and 3 months in, she got a nickel raise. Well, when she comes back in, it's like you said, she just forgot. She forgot. She hasn't seen us in 3 months. She's got childcare. She loves her provider. Everything's going fine. She's happy she got the nickel, but it didn't enter her head to call us. Now she's coming back in. She's sitting in front of us. We're doing her check stubs again, and she goes, oh, I got a nickel raise. And we're going, oh. Yes, and so at the end of the year, that means that you make this instead of this. On the sliding fee scale, instead of paying $10 as your copay, you really should have now paid $15. So for every week of the last 3 months, when you got this raise, you are going to have to come in and pay back that little $5 parent copay. You've been paying the 10, but you should have been paying 5 more. So you're going to have to make up that. And then if you don't bring up that $5 check in or send it however you want to pay it off, then you can't have care until you do. It was a nickel. She didn't think about it. So that wasn't fraud. That was just, you didn't give us the information, so the payment was actually wrong based on the facts sitting in front of us. There has to be a heart when you're in this. You have to understand that parents hit bad times, and our goal, honestly, is to work ourselves out of a job. I don't want parents to hit hard times. I don't want children to be in crisis, and I certainly don't want to have to put children in care because at 2 o'clock in the morning they got taken away from their parents who went to jail and now they're with grandma. That's not what I want to happen on a daily experience. What I do want to happen is if you need it and you're eligible, we want to have the funds so that you can have it. So we are really adamant that we call, unless we know for sure this is fraud, but when you willingly handed us the documentation, oh, I forgot. Yes, you did forgot. You did forgot. But sorry, because you forgot, there's no clear passes there. Dollar for dollar, it has to be accounted for. It just has to be.
On the other side of that coin, unfortunately, you do have some people, that person, instead of getting a nickel raise, she may have taken on another part-time job. Now we're talking about some real money.
We are.
Now we're talking about the potential investigation of fraud.
Absolutely right.
So now it's not just a matter of write us a check.
No, sir,
now it's a matter of go directly to jail, do not pass go, under the worst of conditions. Under the best of conditions, it's a loss of services. And explain, if that happens, how long they're going to wait to even get back on the waiting list.
They're probably not going to get back on the waiting list. They're probably not. And in addition, we're talking about thousands and sometimes more. And usually there's many more than one, there's more people involved. And you're stealing people's money. And you knowingly did it. For example, this happens. I'm married when I first come in. I have 2 incomes, but even together in some of our counties, I still am qualified. And then something happens and I'm not married anymore, but I'm still, I'm not eligible because I'm not working now. Well, you weren't eligible, but you took the care. And that means every bit of that cost, those thousands of dollars. Now, I told you $300 a week. You multiply that times 6 months, you're responsible for that, and your services stop today. And I have to send that up to the Office of Early Learning, Department of Education, who provide us oversight, and the Division of Financial Management. They send an inspector in. And I have seen him work. I don't want to mess with him. I think we're both trying to say is, first, I want that parent to know you want to be working, you want to need this. This isn't I can go enjoy my day. I have worked since I was 12 years old. I believe work makes you feel better. That's just, I don't know what you want to call that, but work, support your family, support your children. That's what we are about. On the other side of that, you don't want to play this system. We do check. It's taxpayers' dollars. And if I want to guard my taxes, how are they being used? I'm thinking about that person that every tax dollar they pay really is a decision about what kind of milk I buy. They don't get to walk in and choose this milk. They don't look often, and I know this because I grew up this way and lived this way many years of my life. You don't go out and look at a menu and look at what is on it. You look at the prices. It's those families who are trying, and they want to be and do the best. And listen, you don't have to wear the best, the latest, but what you must be is the best you can be where you're at for your child, so that when they grow up, they'll be the best. We know this, Paul. We know now, research says that what I see my mom and dad do, my brain takes a picture. Oh, Paul, is that not scary? They're called mirror neurons. My brain as a child takes a picture of what I'm watching day to day. And if you tie emotion to it, so my mom and dad are happy or they're not happy, now my brain really anchors it so that when I grow up and I need to know how to act in a situation, it's up here already. And there it is. So if I grew up with my dad and mom covering me up, put me to bed reading that bedtime story, or I grew up differently, it makes a difference. And that's why we're here, Paul, to support the family be the best they can be. We're not going to allow you to steal. And we do find out. And we step out of it at that point, Paul. I'm not going to be a policeman. I tell my staff all the time, if I have to police you, go find another job.
Yeah, at the very least, a very bad day in your life, should you have to face that.
It is a very bad day.
Let's talk about the good stuff.
I'm so glad you changed that subject.
What's going on these days with ELC? What's new? What's exciting? What you mentioned the neurons and the taking of the picture. That's a very fundamental. I'd like for you to come back sometime. Let's talk about that because we can talk for a long time.
Yes, we can.
But in the meantime,
it's important for parents to know that.
Absolutely.
Goodness, I wish I'd known that.
In the meantime, we're almost out of time for this segment. So what's going on new? Susan Gage came with you today, so we're going to talk about ArtKidDoo when she comes on. But what else is going on with ELC these days?
Well, I think we're like everybody else, trying to figure out how to deliver excellent services in an excellent manner in a time when, while the economy is looking better, we still have a population of families that are not seeing that upward shift as fast. And Paul, unfortunately, we continue to see it more so in our rural counties. So we're trying to come up with some innovative ways to partner with people in the community. Honestly, rural counties get it. I need help to make this happen. So we are so excited. This is one of the most exciting things I can think of. We have a partnership with this technical school. I'm not saying that because we're sitting here, because we got this going before that time, but it's gotten bigger. And we actually have a nurse on staff, an RN, because we go into the child care centers where the children are, and we do hearing and vision screenings. A child that cannot see and cannot hear cannot learn. And even if it's an ear infection, lots of times we don't know it, and they just lost 6 weeks of learning because they didn't hear. So we had the RN, but Paul, money's got cut, and we're going, oh, what do we do? This is important to us. Well, we went and spoke to the director of the nursing program here, who has all of these bright, shining faces that want to try something. Well, we can teach them to use the equipment, and they can come with us into those and get a great practicum. And we're not paying for it. Our RN then comes over and does some of the teaching for these nurses to be, which is wonderful because you're getting that real experience brought back into the classroom. Then these students are going out and having to figure out, how in the world do I take a vision screening on this child whose face is going like this? What do I do? So that wonderful opportunity to learn how to work with children. And now it looks like that partnership is just getting bigger than we ever thought it would. It's not just going to be the way we had envisioned it. And the reason is because now the nursing programs are approaching us and saying, hey, we heard this was happening over there. We're not able to give our students whatever. And so the great things that are happening is that we are understanding there's got to be, if it's important enough, you got to reach into that community and find people who believe it's important enough to partner with you and make that happen. So this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity to partner with nursing programs that these children who are so vulnerable, so very vulnerable. Paul, just this one thing. We know that if a child needs glasses, we know that if we can get them in glasses around 3 years old, if they need it for this special, my nurse would have to tell you what this is, but it's a condition of the eye, then they can be out of glasses by the time they're 7, 8, 9 max. It'll have corrected itself.
Wow.
For life. Here's the flip side of this. If they don't, they will probably get those glasses around 7 years old, and they will be in them for the rest of their life. And at the same time, that vision slowly deteriorates. Not to mention that they never clearly saw that rainbow. They never did.
We've been showing footage of just exactly that, the screenings, as we've been speaking, as you've been speaking. We've spoken here in these chairs with Shirley Morris,
Yes.
who heads up the nursing program, Donna Carnley, who has been here.
Yes.
She and Susan Gage showed us in the environment of some of the local providers not too long ago.
Perfect.
These students, and
Isn't it
in speaking to the students, we actually had the ability then to speak to the students. And what it's teaching them is how to deal with, like you point out, with children, not just how to do the science,
Right.
but what do you do when you have that child that's acting out?
Yes,
What do you do with
right.
that child that's not being cooperative?
Yes.
So in reality, what you're bringing to the school is, when you say partnership, truly you're bringing value.
Yes, absolutely.
As they are giving you value. So that's strong. That in itself is great stuff. Obviously, we've had the fortune of working with the
Yes,
school
right.
for a very long time, and with you. And so congratulations on that partnership. I'd like to get you back soon.
I'd love to come.
I know
Love to
that
come.
we can talk for hours.
Yes, we can.
Literally.
Literally.
I could probably leave and you'd still talk for hours.
I don't need an audience. You're right.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You're going to
Thank
be
you for all
our
you do.
program today at Chipley Kiwanis
Yes.
Club, and we get to hear about some more of this stuff. So
Right.
again, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
We've been here today with Lynne Eldridge, who is Executive Director of Early Learning Coalition of Northwest Florida.
Yeah.
I warned you when we started, you grab a rope and hang on. Lynne arguably is probably one of the more passionate people that I know in the entire world about children, and that comes through with everything she says. We'll be right back.